Hello and welcome to the Elevate podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Nowakowski. I am a salon owner, educator, mindset, and leadership coach that helps salon owners go from overwhelmed and burnt out to motivated and empowered. It is my mission to help you systemize your business, generate more profit, and create a career that you are absolutely in love with. Join us every week to learn about the small shifts you can make to elevate your business regarding mindset, marketing, social media, business systems, and so much more. Welcome to this week's episode of the Elevate podcast. On today's episode, it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a little gossipy and just coming from personal experience. And I would say some of the hardest but best lessons I've learned and from past leadership experiences I've had within the last year with working for somebody else. I just want to state that leadership is one of the most important parts of owning a salon or, in fact, any business. And when you can really grow and hone in on your proactive leadership skills, you can create a thriving, successful business. Leadership will make or break the business you create. And I also want to say that leadership skills are not something you're born with. Leadership is something that has to be crafted and learned, and that can be through coaching. It could be through making mistakes, and we have to give ourselves grace. Every mistake we make in our business is a learning opportunity. I can honestly tell you, I've made so many horrible mistakes in my business that have made me and really kind of shaped my leadership inside of my day-to-day and has really molded me into the business owner I am today. If you've been feeling overwhelmed and overworked from owning your salon, you're not alone. If you're like many salon owners, you wanted to build a salon that makes you feel fulfilled, passionate, and something that brings you freedom and flexibility into your life. But you ended up being exhausted from taking on all your business tasks alone. It doesn't have to be this way. It's time for change. The Elevated Salon Owner Collective will help you do just that. You'll automate your salon, implement solid business systems, transform your salon culture, and take charge of your online presence to regain freedom back into your business. I'd love for you to experience the freedom and fulfillment that you've desired when you decided to create your business. To learn more, visit opulentbeautypro.com/elevate or click the link in the show notes. First, I want to say I have done an amazing job retaining my team. I have the best team that anyone could ever ask for. They're independent. Their desire to grow is incredible, and they really are independent, and we have such an amazing culture right now, and that's not something that has happened by accident. I also want to state that for the first time in like 10 years, I actually worked for another company, and I was the employee, and I had people above me who were acting as my leaders inside of what I was doing for coaching. And I want to say that I learned so many good things from that experience, even though that experience ended very poorly. I think sometimes when we have negative things happen to us, we have a tendency to act as the victim. And one of the things that I did learn from coaching and really working on myself is really taking personal responsibility and looking at the growth opportunity and the lessons in everything that is quote unquote negative or a bad thing that happens, right? When you start to shift your perspective and shift your mindset around what's good and bad and truly just understand that everything in life is a learning experience and we really can't put a label on good or bad. Emotions are information. Emotions give us information we need to get us to our next level. It's information we need to not make the same mistakes. It's information we need to figure out if something is right for us or wrong for us, if it's something that we align with. That's what all emotions do for you. So when you start to look at emotions as information, the good feelings, the bad feelings, the feelings of indifference, they're just ways to get you to make the changes you need and to recreate the things you want to recreate the feelings that you want to feel, right? So I want to start with really understanding the difference between friendship and relationships inside of your business. One of the biggest lessons I learned from this year is you can't be friends with the people in your business because it creates a very gray area. When you become or try to create friendships inside of your business, it blurs the line and it's hard to hold your team accountable and hold them accountable in a way that's going to get you the result that you want, because there's a gray area. And when you cross that line of professionalism and the personal part of relationships, it really makes it hard to have difficult conversations. It really makes it hard to hold the team accountable. And it really makes it hard to drive your team in a way that you want to produce the results that you need. And understanding the difference between a friendship and a genuine, authentic relationship is crucial to the success of your business. As a leader, I definitely recommend not being friends with your team member. What I do recommend is creating genuine, authentic relationships with your team. You see, genuine, authentic relationships with your team that have very good, strong boundaries are vital to cultivate an environment of trust, respect, and it's going to foster connection with your team, which you need to create an amazing culture and to create an amazing business. And that will be grounded in mutual understanding and professionalism. And that's the type of relationship you should create in your business. This will allow you to lead with empathy and nurture an atmosphere where every team member feels valued and appreciated while still maintaining the necessary boundaries you need for leadership. I think a lot of salon owners want to be friends with their team because they want their team to love coming to work. They want their team to love them. They want their team to like them. They want to have a great culture. But I can honestly tell you that building a strong culture, having a great team, having all of those things has nothing to do with being friends with the people that work for you. It has to do with your leadership and creating authentic relationships with boundaries. So friendships are off the table. This will definitely save you and make it easier for you to hold your team accountable and to really cultivate that result you want, because you won't hold back to saying what you need to say to get the result that you want. I think for me, with this experience that I had working for this coaching company, one of the leaders just really tried to be everyone's friend. And that really created a lot of confusion. And I think that's one thing that we don't want for our team. We don't want to be confused, or we don't want to create confusion around the relationship that we have with them. So definitely really having those strong boundaries and really having those relationships stay professional is the real way to create success in your business. The next thing I want to share is, as a leader, we have to understand that all of our good deeds will be forgotten. And this is the truth. So we really need to make sure that we are making the decisions in our business based off of what is the best decision to make, and not based off of, trying to make a decision to get somebody to like us or to create the least amount of resistance. We also have to know that make a decision to help somebody and make a decision to do any good deeds or any good things for other people based off of the fact, do you really want to do it or don't you? Not for the result it will create for you. Because all good deeds go, I don't want to say unnoticed, because they're definitely noticed at first, but they're forgotten. I can't even tell you how many things I've done for my team. And I want to say in my earlier years, I definitely made decisions based on what I would get in return. And that obviously never turned out. But I also based decisions on, really wanting to get people to like me, not wanting to stir the pot, not wanting, to put somebody out. And in reality, that is not what's best for the business. As a salon owner, as a business owner, we have to understand that the reason why we make decisions in our business has to be what's best for the business. So we can keep our doors open and continue to employ people and to continue to help people thrive. That should be your main focus. How can we create the best space and have the most success for the people working for us? And sometimes that means making really hard decisions and doing things that we know will not really benefit us in the future. There was like a couple of things that I've done recently that, I did maybe as a good deed that didn't really turn out the way that I wanted. I found myself in a situation where I had one of my salon suite owners, she had a suite partner, and unfortunately that suite partner had decided to leave and they were sharing the salon suite together. At the time that the suite partner left, I made the decision not to raise her rent to the full amount. Because, she was a single mom. I didn't want to put her out. I didn't want to hurt her business. It wasn't necessarily like her decision for this person to leave. So I decided to just do a very small increase on her rent and not raise her rent to the full amount it should have been because this suite partner unexpectedly vacated the space. So I made the conscious decision not to increase the rent, choosing instead to act with compassion and understanding. It came to a point where I needed to financially, we were expanding. I had way more expenses. At that time, we weren't responsible for utilities. I was taking on all the utilities now because my lease had changed. So I was faced with the decision and I had to raise her rent to the full amount because financially it was what the business needed. And of course, what happened next was unexpected. So instead of the appreciation I expected from giving her a discount on her rent for the last year, I faced resistance and she chose not to stay. Despite all of my best intentions to really do what was best for her, she decided to rally against me and push people out of my business. So she moved to a different salon suite and then she ended up taking a couple of my commission people, taking a couple of the other salon suite renters with her, saying that like I raised her rent ridiculously. She instilled fear in the other people working in my salon suites, all without sharing the story of me actually giving her a discount on her rent. She made me look like the bad guy. And that's going into my next point is in the world of leadership, people will always talk about you. And it's not always going to be in the way that you'd like. And it's usually not going to be kind, especially when things end in a bad way. So there are always three sides to a story. There's yours and the truth. And a lot of times when people choose to leave your business or, sometimes when people are in the wrong and they know they're in the wrong, they're going to protect themselves. And that's just human nature. And that's going to be in any sort of situation. It's going to be in personal relationships, romantic relationships. People always want to paint the picture that they weren't in the wrong and that they did the right thing, right? We all want to do that. If we do it consciously or unconsciously, it's just a part of human nature. When we're doing that and we are having a business, we have to understand that, right? Not sometimes, but all the time, we have to understand that not everyone is going to like us. Not everyone is going to understand or like the decisions we have to make. And not everyone is conscious enough not to negatively talk about you and what you're doing inside of your business. And misunderstandings can happen, misinterpretations can happen, and that is a part of life. So when we open a business, we have to understand our team that leaves will talk bad about us. People in our community might talk bad about us. clients that come into the business that aren't happy and we didn't resolve the problem in the way that they wanted can talk bad about us. It's just a part of being a business owner. I think what's most important about this part of business is you really need to get very clear on who you are as a person and understand your true self. Even after this whole debacle happened with this coaching company, which, by the way, was one of the most confusing, disturbing experiences I have ever had. And I know that the people who own the company are talking negatively about me as I talk negatively about them, because our experience of the situation that happened is very personal, right? And it's our own interpretation. So one thing that is going to be your saving grace in owning a salon or in experiencing conflict is really knowing who you are as a person. When you understand and really, really know yourself and who you are as a person, and really down to your core, you're self-aware of you as a whole, and you are so sure of yourself, which is very hard to be 100% sure of yourself, right? Unless you're like a narcissist or something like that, right? Like we always have doubts about who we are and what we're doing because that's just our ego and it's a part of life and it's what helps us grow. But when you know to the core that you are a good person and that you've always had the best interest of people in mind, and you've always done what's best for the business and the team as a whole, or for the people that you work for, or for your friends, or for the people that you love, if you know down to the core that you've always done the best thing possible, that when people talk about you deep in your heart, you know that they're wrong. And that's all that matters, because what other people say about you is none of your business. It really isn't. And it shouldn't affect what you think about yourself. So really searching for outside validation when it comes to leadership is something that needs to be kicked out the door. And you have to really be sure of who you are and what you're doing, and really be confident in your decisions, and really be confident of who you are as a person. Because who you are as a person to the core, if you know you're a good friend, if you know you're a good leader, if you know you're a good business person, if you know you're a good employee, that when somebody says something or you hear something, you just brush it off because you're like, I know that's not true. So I think, really getting really clear and self-aware and understanding who you are and being confident in that is something that is a non-negotiable for being a leader and a salon owner. There is such a complexity of leadership. It is a lot of working pieces and a lot of little different types of skills and traits that are really put together to build strong leadership. And we have to understand, and this is going to go into my next section, that people will never understand the decisions you make. And this will lead to people talking about you, right? Like, people won't understand why you do what you do and the decisions you make until they've actually walked in your shoes and done what you've done. They'll never understand. That's why it is crucial that you have very strong decision-making skills and that you have the ability to make decisions based on what is right and what the business needs, without letting other people's opinions, feelings, reactions, emotions get involved in the decision-making process. You can't let people get involved in the decision-making process because they don't have the risk that's on the line. They don't know all of the inner workings, and they haven't had the experiences you faced in order to make the right decision. So, amongst all of these things, we have to understand that people will never understand why we make the decisions we make. And that's something that you have to be okay with. We need to understand that the difference between success and setback is the ability to make really clear decisions. Okay, so my last point for today's conversation and today's podcast is you need to have difficult conversations. You need to have and understand that difficult conversations will make or break your business. So you're going to come across a lot of challenges. You're going to come across people who will intentionally do things wrong, will intentionally not care, unintentionally do things wrong, unintentionally not follow the rules. And you have to have the ability to have difficult conversations. Difficult conversations also go into the ability to set boundaries inside of your business. And if you do not have the ability to have difficult conversations, boundary setting is going to be really hard. I think in the course of owning my salon for going on 12 years, this is something that I've really grown and really gotten great at, is the ability to have difficult conversations, the ability to be proactive, not reactive, and to remove the emotion out of what I'm saying, because I know that the words that come out of my mouth have a huge impact on my team, how they feel, their next step, their results, and their reactions. And I think that when we have difficult conversations in a way that is empathetic and proactive, it is something that will change the life of you and the life of your business. I think that was one of the issues that I experienced over the last year, is the inability to have difficult conversations with the people that I was working for. There would have been so many things that could have been avoided if they were just to do the hard thing and to say things that weren't working, or the things that they didn't like, or the things that they didn't want. It would have changed the way that things happened in such a deep way. So when we're navigating conversations, we want to make sure that we're, incorporating empathy, we're transparent, we're authentic. That is what is essential to maintaining the trust between two people and mitigating potential damage to the team dynamic, right? And the overall productivity. That is important. Another thing, I'm going to add one more thing, because this is something that just popped in my brain that triggered me, right? Being authentic and not manipulative is another essential part of being a great leader. Manipulation, lies, and not being authentic and being fake, like fake nice or like a fake friend, will only get you so far. And you can only put on the act for so long. I think that there was so much manipulation happening in the last experience I had. You can only play that game for so long before people figure it out, right? Like manipulation can only go so far and can only work on, certain types of conscious levels, right? One thing that I know is that once somebody really crosses a boundary for me, manipulation is one of them, I'm done. Yeah, cut off, will not talk to you, done. And I think that instead of being able to have difficult conversations, going into my last point, there was a lot of manipulation that was happening because of the inability to have difficult conversations. You see, when you can have difficult conversations, you don't need to be manipulative. You don't. You can be your authentic true self, and you can just say how you feel, say what's happening, and not have to use that tactic to get the result that you want, because using manipulation to get the result that you want is not going to be effective. It's just not. So I think that's one thing that I learned. I'm very open with who I am, what I do, what's happening in my life, my flaws, my issues. I've really worked on being vulnerable and being my true self. And in a way that kind of blew up in my face with the last year, but in return, it was really freeing. I think the ability to really be vulnerable and really be open about who I was and what I was doing as a person with the people that were important in my life was a very freeing thing. That's not something that is possible for everybody. So that is the wrap up of today's podcast. And when we're thinking about the journey of leadership and when we're working for another company or when we have our own company, we have to know that the path to being a great leader is authenticity, it's empathy, it's resilience, it's fostering genuine relationships with your team and with just people in general. And it is the understanding that, all of your good deeds, just expect that they go unnoticed. And you probably won't get the recognition you deserve, and you shouldn't, because you're the business owner and you're the leader, and that's just how things work. But you need to continue to navigate and evolve the landscape of leadership and recognize that the value of difficult conversations and the remain unyielding in your commitment will lead to amazing leadership. Thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to exploring more leadership topics with you on the podcast. If you loved today's podcast, please share this with your favorite business owner or your favorite salon owner. Make sure you subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for tuning in to the Elevate podcast. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. The Elevate podcast is hosted by me, Patricia Nowakowski, and is produced by Opulent Beauty Pro. To receive my free business guides, visit opulentbeautypro.com/free or click the link in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at Opulent Beauty Pro or at Patricia_Nowakowski_OBS. If you love this show, please consider subscribing, and we will see you next week.